For nearly a decade, the Beverly Hillbillies brought joy, laughter, and timeless entertainment to millions of households across America. With its quirky characters, down-home charm, and unforgettable one-liners, the show became one of the most iconic sitcoms of the 1960s. But while the memories live on, time has taken its toll. Many of the beloved actors who gave life to the Clampett family and their unforgettable neighbors have sadly passed away, leaving behind a legacy that still tugs at the heartstrings of fans old and new. In this heartfelt tribute, we look back at the lives, careers, and untimely losses of the stars who made the Beverly Hillbillies a television treasure. Buddy Ebsen, who portrayed Jed Clampett, the warm-hearted patriarch in the Beverly Hillbillies, was 54 when the series began in 1962. Ebsen's portrayal of Jed, a humble mountaineer who strikes it rich and moves his family to Beverly Hills, captured the hearts of millions with his down-to-earth charm. Behind the camera, Ebsen led a life filled with both triumph and hardship. He was married 3 times and fathered 7 children. His second marriage, to Nancy Walcott, ended in divorce after nearly 40 years, strained by the demands of his career. Despite his steady screen presence, Ebsen faced multiple health scares, including a near-fatal reaction during his early casting as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. He also struggled with prolonged periods of isolation following his retirement. His later years were spent largely out of the public eye, quietly writing and collecting rare coins. Ebsen passed away in 2003 at the age of 95 due to complications from pneumonia. At the time of his death, his estate was valued at an estimated $6 million. He is remembered as a gentle soul with a private life more stormy than the easy wisdom of his beloved Jed Clampett character ever revealed. Irene Ryan, who played Granny Daisy Moses, was 60 years old when she brought the fiery, sharp-tongued matriarch to life in 1962. Known for her comedic timing and feisty energy, Ryan's performance made Granny one of television's most memorable elderly characters. Off-screen, however, Ryan led a markedly quieter and lonelier life. Her only marriage, to vaudeville partner Tim Ryan, ended in divorce decades before the Beverly Hillbillies began. She had no children and was never remarried, often retreating into her work and the solitude of her modest home. Following the show's end, she returned briefly to theater, but her health declined rapidly. Diagnosed with brain and lung cancer in 1973, she died the same year at the age of 70. Though surrounded by colleagues who adored her, Ryan's final days were spent largely alone. Her estate was modest, reflecting a life focused more on the stage than on securing long-term wealth. Her death marked the tragic end of a woman who made millions laugh, though her own heart rarely found true companionship. Donna Douglas, who portrayed the beautiful, sweet-natured Ellie Mae Clampett, was just 29 when she became a national icon in 1962. Known for her love of animals and innocent charm, Ellie Mae was adored by fans, yet Douglas herself struggled to find similar affection in her personal life. She was briefly married to Roland Bourgeois Jr., with whom she had one son, Danny. Their marriage dissolved after just a few years, and she never remarried, citing spiritual beliefs and a preference for solitude. Typecast after the Beverly Hillbillies, Douglas struggled to find meaningful roles and turned to gospel singing, real estate, and religious speaking engagements. While she maintained a cheerful public persona, friends revealed that she often felt frustrated and forgotten by the industry. She lived modestly in Louisiana, clinging to her faith and privacy. Douglas passed away in 2015 at the age of 82 from pancreatic cancer. Her estate was valued at approximately $500,000, far less than what her fame might have promised. Her life, marked by early stardom and later spiritual retreat, mirrored the gentle sadness of someone who never quite escaped her most famous role. Raymond Bailey, who brought the calculating banker Milburn Drysdale to life, was 57 when the Beverly Hillbillies began. Known for his portrayal of greed and corporate absurdity, Bailey added a sharp edge to the otherwise homespun comedy. Off-screen, Bailey's life was filled with turbulence and solitude. He was married to Gabby Ida George, though little is known of their relationship, which was said to be distant and strained by his long absences for filming. He had no children, and his career stalled after the show ended, with the actor slowly retreating into obscurity. In his final years, he battled Alzheimer's disease, which led to his early retirement and increasing isolation. He died in 1980 at the age of 75, having spent the last years of his life in a care facility. Bailey's financial estate was relatively modest, as poor investments and healthcare costs ate away at his earnings. Though his character was obsessed with wealth, the man behind the role ended his days with more memories than money, a quiet, tragic ending for a man once hailed for his sharp comedic instincts. Nancy Culp, best known as the quirky and loyal Miss Jane Hathaway, was 41 when she joined the cast of the Beverly Hillbillies. Her deadpan humor and devotion to her boss made her a standout in the series, though behind the scenes Culp often struggled with her identity and personal happiness. Married briefly to Charles Malcolm Dacus, the union ended in divorce in 1961, just before the show began. She had no children and never remarried. Rumors about her sexuality persisted for years, and she later hinted at being gay in a time when such openness was career suicide in Hollywood. After the sitcom ended, Culp pursued a teaching career and made an unsuccessful bid for Congress, where even former co-star Buddy Ebsen publicly opposed her campaign. This betrayal deeply hurt her and widened the gap between them. Culp passed away in 1991 at the age of 69 from cancer. She died quietly, with little fanfare, her estate valued modestly, reportedly less than $100,000. Despite a life marked by unfulfilled political dreams and personal secrecy, she remains a cherished figure in television history for her dry wit and unforgettable charm. Harriet E. McGibbon, who portrayed the aristocratic and ever-snobbish Mrs. Margaret Drysdale in the Beverly Hillbillies, was 66 years old when the show premiered in 1962. Her character, a wealthy banker's wife disgusted by the Clampett's rural manners, was a comedic symbol of social elitism. Off-screen, McGibbon's life was not as controlled as her characters. She was married twice, first to William Reno Cain, with whom she had a son, William Jr., who tragically died in his 40s. The couple divorced in the early 1940s, and she later wed writer Charles Corwin White. That marriage, though lasting decades, suffered from long periods of separation due to White's declining health and professional pressures. He passed away in 1967, leaving her emotionally withdrawn. McGibbon rarely worked again after the series ended, citing exhaustion and depression. She lived quietly in Los Angeles and grew increasingly reclusive, suffering from arthritis and vision loss. She died in 1987 at age 81 of cardiac arrest. Her estate was modest, estimated at under $300,000, having spent her final years in a small assisted living apartment, supported by residuals and savings. Bebe Natteret, who played the proud and overly talkative cousin Pearl Bodine, was 55 when she first stepped into the role in the Beverly Hillbillies. Her portrayal of Jed Clampett's meddling cousin gave the show a warm yet chaotic maternal figure. Off-screen, Bebe Natteret's personal life was fraught with setbacks. She first married actor Jim Bannon in 1938, with whom she had 2 children, Jack and Maggie. Their marriage was tumultuous, marred by financial struggles and Bannon's drinking. It ended in divorce in 1950. She later found love with Eugene Twombly, a gentle sound technician, whom she married in 1957. But happiness was short-lived. In 1967, Bebe was diagnosed with lung cancer, and after an initial remission, the disease returned aggressively. She also lost her son Jack to a car accident just months before her own death, compounding her grief. Bebe Natteret died in 1968 at age 62, having never met her grandchildren. Her estate was estimated at $500,000 at the time of her death. Her final years, though publicly successful, were marked by personal loss and private suffering. Percy Helton, known for his eccentric voice and quirky demeanor, brought his unique charm to a one-time guest role as Homer Cratchit on the Beverly Hillbillies in 1965, when he was 64. Though a brief appearance, his character added a surreal humor that highlighted Helton's long-standing reputation in Hollywood as the go-to oddball. In reality, Helton's life had a darker tint. A former vaudeville child actor, he endured intense stage parenting and suffered from lifelong stage fright masked by over-the-top personas. Married to chorus girl Edna Eustace, their union remained childless and distant, with Edna spending much of her time apart in New York. Rumors circulated about Helton's deep depression and periods of alcohol abuse, exacerbated by career stagnation and typecasting. He lived alone for years before his death, growing paranoid and distrustful. Helton died in 1971 at age 77 from a heart attack, reportedly found days later in his apartment. His estate was modest, valued at roughly $150,000, with no known heirs. His later years were marked by loneliness, despite a career of unforgettable faces. Frank Wilcox, often seen in various guest roles as stern judges on the Beverly Hillbillies, was 59 when the show began. He had a commanding presence, and was a reliable character actor who gave legal gravitas to any episode he touched. Off-camera, Wilcox's life was fragmented. Twice married, he had one son, Richard, from his first wife, Vivian. Their marriage fell apart after years of increasing emotional distance. His second marriage to Joy Langston seemed more stable but was plagued by his struggles with identity in the changing film landscape of the 1960s. Once a leading man in B-movies, by the time of Hillbillies he felt relegated to the margins. He opened a bar in Encino called the Oak Room but suffered from alcoholism, a fact rarely acknowledged publicly. He was hospitalized several times in the early 70s before finally passing away in 1974 at age 66 from heart failure. His estate, though partially tied to his bar business, was reportedly under $200,000. The man who often passed judgment on screen died feeling overlooked in an industry that once embraced him. Charles Lane, famously gruff and dry-witted in countless roles across film and TV, was 58 when he began appearing in the Beverly Hillbillies as a variety of no-nonsense characters. His distinct delivery and ever-scowling face made him a beloved curmudgeon. Behind the scenes, Lane was a man of strict routines and quiet suffering. He married his wife Ruth Covell in 1931, and though they stayed married for over 70 years, it was far from idyllic. Ruth reportedly resented the Hollywood lifestyle, preferring anonymity, which led to a private but emotionally cold household. They had 2 children, Charles Jr. and Alice, both of whom had little interest in the entertainment world. Lane became disillusioned with Hollywood by the late 70s and withdrew almost entirely, battling chronic pain from arthritis and near blindness. He outlived most of his contemporaries, dying in 2007 at the astonishing age of 102. His estate was estimated at $1.2 million, much of which he willed to UCLA's Film Preservation Society. Despite living so long, Lane often admitted in his later years that his greatest fear had come true, outliving everyone he cared about. Howard McNear, who briefly portrayed Dr. Clyburn on the Beverly Hillbillies in a guest role in 1963 at the age of 57, was best known for his portrayal of Floyd the Barber on The Andy Griffith Show. His appearance on the Beverly Hillbillies showcased his ability to infuse charm into even the smallest roles. Tragically, McNear's life off-screen was riddled with health issues. He suffered a major stroke in 1963, which left the left side of his body paralyzed. Though he bravely returned to acting afterward, he was never quite the same. He was married to Helen Spatz, a former stage actress, and they had one son, Christopher. Their marriage was enduring, but Helen was forced into the role of full-time caretaker in McNear's final years, which placed considerable strain on the family. The stroke not only limited his acting opportunities but also led to increasing isolation. Financial hardships followed, as medical bills and limited work depleted their savings. McNear died in 1969 at the age of 63 due to complications from pneumonia. At the time of his death, his estate was modest, estimated at around $75,000, much of which was tied up in medical debt. Despite his personal struggles, he was fondly remembered in Hollywood as a gentle and humorous man who brought comfort to others even in his own suffering. Robert Folk, who appeared as the sheriff in a guest role on the Beverly Hillbillies in 1963 at age 56, was often cast as gruff but fair lawman in countless westerns and sitcoms throughout the 1950s and 60s. His appearance on the show was brief but memorable, lending his no-nonsense demeanor to a series that thrived on comic chaos. Off-screen, Folk was married to actress Alice Frost, though their union was marred by long separations and emotional distance, largely due to Folk's relentless pursuit of work to sustain his fading career. The couple had no children and often lived in different cities. In the final decades of his life, Folk struggled with depression and a sense of professional irrelevance, as younger actors replaced him in the roles he once dominated. His health declined in the early 80s, and he died in 1989 at the age of 82 from heart failure. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at $500,000, the bulk of which came from careful investments rather than his later acting work. Though never a major star, Folk was respected by peers as a reliable character actor, but his personal life was often a quiet echo of professional disappointments and emotional detachment. John Harmon, who took on the roles of a telegrapher and clerk in the Beverly Hillbillies during 1964 at age 49, had a career spanning hundreds of character roles in film and television. His brief yet effective presence in the show was typical of his work, subtle but essential to building the world of the story. Harmon never married, and those close to him often described him as a loner, completely consumed by his work and personal demons. Behind his professional persona lay a life marked by tragedy. He struggled with alcoholism for decades and endured the suicide of his only brother, which deeply affected him. Harmon battled with mental health issues throughout his adult life, often withdrawing from both Hollywood and friends. He lived modestly in a rented apartment, never achieving the financial success many assumed from his prolific screen appearances. Harmon died in 1985 at age 70 from complications related to emphysema. His net worth at the time of death was a mere $40,000, a stark contrast to his extensive resume. Despite his tragic solitude, he was remembered by directors as someone who could bring authenticity to even the most minor of roles, a forgotten gem in the golden age of television. William Mims, who portrayed various roles and guest appearances on the Beverly Hillbillies starting in 1962 at the age of 46, was a dependable character actor often cast in authority roles, doctors, judges, and businessmen. Though he made numerous television appearances, his fame never soared, and his career quietly declined after the 1970s. He was married to actress Nancy Kidd, and they had 2 children, Brian and Melissa. Despite outward appearances of stability, the marriage was plagued by long silences, rumored infidelities, and disagreements over parenting. They separated in 1980 and officially divorced 2 years later. Mims struggled to maintain contact with his children, especially after retreating into near-total privacy. In his final years, Mims was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which severely limited his mobility and voice, his most valued tools as an actor. He passed away in 1991 at age 75 from complications of pneumonia. At the time of his death, his estate was valued at approximately $300,000, largely tied to royalties and a modest home in Glendale, California. Though never a household name, Mims left behind a legacy of versatility and professionalism, overshadowed in the end by personal regrets and unfulfilled potential. Which character from the Beverly Hillbillies, TV series 1962 to 1971, holds a special place in your heart? How does it make you feel knowing that some of the beloved cast members are no longer with us? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. If you've been enjoying this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching.